Hi everyone, my name is Sandiso and welcome to my channel, Tax Shelter. In this channel, we simplify tax for small businesses and individuals. If that is your thing, if you sometimes feel like you don't know what's going on with tax in South Africa, if you're an individual or if you're a small business, then stick around, maybe subscribe or hit the notification button as well so that you get notifications when I post stuff. I'm not very consistent, I will put that out there, but when I do post content, I post quality content. So yeah, what are we doing today? I know I'm a little late. Tax season started on the 7th of July. In fact, I would say that I would argue that it started on the 1st of July, but we'll get into that just now. This is just an update. Who needs to submit, what's going on with auto assessments, etc, etc. So if you would like to know, then stick around. Okay, first things first, start of the tax season. The tax season started, the manual submission of the tax season started on the 7th of July at 8 o'clock. SARS just keeps changing stuff. Obviously they have their own reasons why they keep doing that, but yeah, it started on the 7th of July, which for as long as I've been a tax practitioner hasn't happened that tax season doesn't start on the 1st of July. This was actually the first time. And if you haven't noticed, the tax season submission time keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Last year, for the very first time, SARS moved the date from November, the last date of submission from November to October. And this year, not only have they moved up, well, it stayed in October this year, but then what they've done is they've now moved up the start date from the 1st of July to the 7th. If you're wondering, the official date of the tax season was the 7th of July and the closing is the 23rd of October. So if you're a non-provisional tax, you have from the 7th of July up until the 23rd of October to submit your income tax return. If you don't, you will be in trouble with SARS. So just get to it. Okay, so the first update, auto assessments. So in the previous years, in fact, since SARS introduced the auto assessments, you had an option of either confirming or rejecting the auto assessment, depending on what you wanted to do or what you felt was right or was not right with your income tax return. This year, SARS changed things up a bit. Now you don't have an option to either reject or confirm your auto assessment. What they have done is from the 1st of July up until the 7th of July, they've been dishing out auto assessments to everyone who has been auto assessed. And then what they do is you don't have an option. So if you auto assessed, you are assessed, and that's it. And if you don't go and do a correction on your assessment, then SARS sends you if you have a refund, then SARS sends you the refund within, I think, 48 to 72 hours. Most people have said that they've gotten their refunds within like 48 hours, which is nice. But then as a tax practitioner, my personal opinion, I'm not happy with that. The new way of doing auto assessments, doing a correction and all of that stuff, it comes with just a lot of admin. You need to submit stuff, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's just I think it just creates a lot of work for taxpayers. Also, again, my personal opinion, I think SARS is taking the right away from taxpayers to submit their own tax returns. I know there are people who are like, listen, I'm happy SARS is doing it and whatnot, not. But then also, I think the majority of people would prefer to do their own tax returns themselves. If you don't agree, then do comment down below. I'd like to hear other taxpayers' opinions. And the reason I'm saying this is because after the auto assessment has been done, imagine now, you're auto assessed, you have this huge refund. And then a few months down the line, or even a year down the line, SARS finds out that they made a mistake. and now they're gonna want their money back. And you're sitting there thinking like, but you auto-assessed me, I didn't do anything. The danger with all of this is that, number one, even though you are auto-assessed, I don't think taxpayers know that it is still your responsibility to make sure that what SARS auto-assessed is correct. In other words, you're still responsible to make sure that what was submitted by SARS is correct. Which, in my opinion, I think it would be better if you went and submitted your own return, and then you know that you are responsible because that's what you submitted yourself. And also another thing with this is SARS is using third-party information. By that I mean they're using stuff from your medical aid provider, which then is pre-populated. And they use stuff from, say for instance, you have an investment with a bank, they use the interest, sorry, they use the interest that you receive from that bank. If you have a retirement annuity, they use the retirement annuity information that they get from your financial services provider. In my opinion, that is a problem because there is always room for human error. That information is populated by a person, you know. If at some point someone went in and put in information, say for an example of this, say for instance you've contributed 20,000 towards your retirement annuity this year, and then someone goes and puts in an extra zero there, and then it shows that you've contributed 200,000, and then your deduction for retirement, for your pension fund deduction becomes this big. And then the next thing, few years down the line, SARS finds out that no, actually that wasn't correct, and then now you owe SARS because they've refunded you, they've over refunded you. So it's a bit of a problem in that way. But then, I mean, we'll see. This is the first time SARS is trying this out, and people in the industry, in the tax practitioners, have raised this with SARS, that it's a dangerous, it's kind of playing with fire, really, because some taxpayers are just getting the hang of submitting their tax returns. Now, if someone finds that their auto assessment is incorrect, now they need to learn how to do a correction and all of that stuff. And in some situations, people might now need to go and consult a professional, whereas in the past they were doing their own thing. And also with this thing with auto assessment is, there are people, because I mean tax is complicated, especially when you don't have the tax background. There are people who still are not aware that you need to add your out of pocket medical expenses that you did not put through your medical aid in order to make sure that you get the deduction for them or the rebate for them. So now to be doing this auto assessment, and then people need to go and provide proof and all of that stuff, in my opinion, especially at the rate that SARS pays the refund, SARS pays the refund so quickly, you'll find that sometimes people, even if they do see the mistake, they're gonna be like, I need this money, and then they use it. I mean, we're all going through hard times right now with the economy. So can you imagine a situation whereby you find yourself owing SARS? Anyway, so that's the first change. Auto assessments, you no longer confirm or reject. They just there, they happen. If you don't agree now, you need to do a correction. That's what's up. 2, submission period is smaller, 7 to 23 October. I can't emphasize enough, guys, if you don't submit, penalties will be dished out by SARS, so you need to make sure that you submit. Right now, another thing that's very important, this is not the first year that SARS is doing it, but I just need to emphasize it. So in the past, you would find that if you have one income tax return that's outstanding, in other words, if, say for instance, by 23 October or November you still haven't submitted your one return for the current year, you would normally not get penalties. That's how it's been in the past. But then SARS from last year said that, listen, if you now have one return that's outstanding, you will get penalties. So now there is just no room to have an outstanding return at all. And also, in my opinion, SARS in the past has been lenient when it comes to penalties, right, for non-submission. So what would happen in the past is you would say, for instance, you don't submit and then you get penalties. So what would happen is we would submit for you, or you would submit for yourself, and then you would go up to SARS and apologize. This is now in simple terms, by the way. You'd go to SARS, apologize, and ask them to write off the penalties. It's called a request for remission. In other words, you ask SARS to write off the penalty. In the past, SARS was very lenient, but they're not anymore. Unless you are dying, then you better submit your return. Because when you go to SARS and say that, listen, I didn't submit my return for whatever reason, they're not going to be very lenient with you. So you need to make sure that you submit your return, unless it's a matter beyond your control. And mind you, you're going to have to prove to SARS that this was a matter beyond your control. In other words, say for instance, your company did not submit your AMP 501s, and they've been telling you guys that they're sorting it out and whatnot, so you could not submit. SARS is going to want to see proof, okay? Or you're having technical difficulties. It could be whatever reason, but SARS has to be satisfied that it was way beyond your control, so you could not genuinely submit. So that's what SARS looks at now. Otherwise, they're just not lenient anymore when it comes to penalties. Another thing, guys, so SARS is trying to automate everything, right? They're doing everything to make sure that they get information themselves. What they're trying to do ultimately is to not rely so much on taxpayers for their information, tax information. They're trying to make sure that everything is connected to third parties, correct? So one of the things that SARS has said they want to do is to connect with Home Affairs. They wanted to connect with what's this department? The department that's responsible for what you call title deeds and whatnot. I forgot now what that is, but they want to connect there. They also want to connect with recognized controlling bodies. They want accounting information. I think that will help mostly with VAT. But yeah, so that's what SARS is trying to do right now. So one of the first phase of that, I think they're managing to do, or they've managed to do, they said in June, they're able now to connect with Home Affairs. Why is that important? Well, if you are married in community of property, what SARS wants to do, okay, first of all, if you are married in community of property, passive income is shared between you and your spouse, right? If you didn't know this or don't know this, or you want more information on this, then check out my video that's talking about tax and marriage. The name of the video is called Tax and Marriage, so that you can get an idea of how the marriage regime you choose affects your taxes, because it does, fortunately or unfortunately. So please do check out that video. So what SARS is doing now is they want to populate information with your spouse. So if you are married in commercial property and you have passive income is income other than your 9-to-5, income from your 9-to-5. So anything that you're getting from the size that's not your salary, then it's passive income. An example of this would be interest income. So say for instance you have an investment and you're earning maybe 100,000 rand interest on that investment. If you're married in commercial property, 50,000 rand is going to be allocated to your, for tax purposes, it's going to be allocated to your spouse, and 50,000 rand is going to be allocated to yourself. Now, when you're completing your return, you don't put 50,000 rand there that you've earned. In fact, you'll find that, because now it gets pre-populated anyway by the financial services company and the banks, you'll find that the whole amount is populated there. But what you need to do is to actually answer that question correctly that asks whether or not you are married in commercial property. That's where you need to then answer correctly. So you leave it like that. If it's 100,000 rand, you leave it like that. But then when they ask you if you're married in commercial property and they ask you for your spouse's details, you complete that information. Very important, because if you say no there, you're not married in commercial property, then the whole 100,000 rand is going to be taxed under your name, right? And then if later SARS finds out, it might create problems for your spouse, because what will then happen is that SARS will say that they were under text. In fact, they were not under text. They didn't disclose all their income, because remember, half of that 100,000 was supposed to be disclosed under their tax returns. So if you don't answer that question correctly, you could be putting your spouse under jeopardy of being investigated by SARS and actually being in trouble with SARS, because then they would have under disclosed their income. So that is very important. So now what SARS is doing is they're saying that what they're trying to do with Home Affairs is actually working out. So what you will find now is, even if you answer yes or no and whatnot under your return, what will happen is the passive income that is you have earned, it will also populate under your spouse's name. So that's what SARS is trying to achieve. Because I know a lot of people that say that I never bothered to say yes to that because I don't want to be putting in my spouse's information and whatnot. Guys, that is very important, especially if you have a lot of passive income. It's very, very important. So watch out for that. Another one, guys, that SARS is coming from is those title deeds. Those people that are doing rental, doing it cash business, because they're avoiding paying income tax on that, SARS will eventually come for you, and they will want to know what's been happening to those properties in the previous year. Because if you just buy a property and then it's just sitting there, SARS is going to become suspicious. Wow. And then what was that for? And once SARS starts coming for you, it's like, it's one of those when they say people, it never rains but it pours. So you don't want to find yourself in that situation. Very, very important. Okay guys, just to summarize, tax season, it opened on the 7th of July. It's closing on the 23rd of October. If you're a non-provisional taxpayer, then you need to make sure that you submit everything. If you're a provisional taxpayer, then you have up until the 24th of January to submit. Very important. Number 2, SARS issues penalties now, even if you have one return that's outstanding. And if you are late, they will issue penalties, guys. They're doing it now consistently, without fail. 3, if you're auto-assessed, then you find that it is wrong from the 7th of July, you can then go do a correction and correct that. If you get a refund and you don't think you should have gotten a refund, or there's something not making sense, please, as tempting as it might be, don't chow that money. Don't use that money. Go double check your return and make sure that it is correct. If it is incorrect, then try and correct it, because chances are, guys, eventually SARS is going to find out that the incorrect return was submitted and they will ask for their money back, unfortunately, because in as much as they do auto assessments, they're still saying that the onus is on you to make sure that the information is correct. Okay, all right then, guys, if you found this information valuable, then please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of quality content when it comes to tax. Otherwise, if you would like to consult or you want me to submit your returns for you, I will leave my email on the description box and maybe in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, see you on my next video.